Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest episode of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Nate Maxon, your host, here with you. We have a three-man booth this week. Of course, my brother Aron is here.
Hello, everybody.
And if you be smelling what he be cooking, Senor Archie Mitchell is here as well.
Hola, everybody. It's been a while.
Yes. Welcome back.
Thank you. I was busy arguing my contract negotiations with Nick again. He wasn't delivering on those cheeseburger and fries.
But we got it taken care of.
Yes.
At a certain point during the negotiations, I feared for my life.
Yes.
But everything's fine now.
First time anyone's ever feared for their life on a podcast.
Yeah, I virtually feared for my life.
I had to virtually lunge for Archie.
All right. Well, Archie, you've missed some good, you've missed some bad as we've been going through the 1994 PWI 500. But we are at number 88. That's right,
Wow.
folks. We're going to continue our journey through the PWI 500 from 1994 this week. And I gave a spoiler at the end of last week's episode because maybe I had a couple of beers in me. I said that coming up next week, number 88 would be the worst King of the Ring of all time. And then I said, number 88's Mabel. But yes, it's Mabel.
Hold on. Xavier Woods wasn't in the company in 94.
I still
alive.
I still contest Mabel is the worst King of the Ring.
He's bad. He's bad. Let's see. His King of the Ring started with him injuring the Undertaker. Then he injured Diesel. And then he just floundered after that.
Yes.
Until he got fired.
6'10" here. This is, again, 94, 6'10", 444, 3 years pro. Briefly held the WWF World Tag Team title with Mo in Men on a Mission, but now better known as Solo. Massive, tough feuding with Bam Bam Bigelow. I don't know if anybody here knows this, but to prove what a slob in the ring sometimes Nelson Frazier could be, especially in the early 90s. That tag team championship run that was only like 2 days long that Men on a Mission had in England. Did you guys know that was purely an accident?
Yes, it was. The ref counted 3 by mistake.
Because Mabel's big ass pretty much crushed Carl Ouellette, and he couldn't get up, and they did the pinfall. So they weren't even supposed to win the belts.
Right.
But because Mabel was unsafe.
Yep. That was the beauty of PWI back then, because you wouldn't hear about it on wrestling, on Superstars or Monday Night Raw or whatever. You'd read PWI or the Almanac, and you'd be running through the list of champions and go, damn, when did Men on a Mission win the titles? And then you read it was a 2-day run in France. You're like, oh, damn, that didn't mean shit.
Wrestling Mabel was probably like trying to handle like a deep soaked bean bag.
I was gonna say it's like wrestling one of those big floppy king mattresses.
Yeah, trying to pick it up one man.
Yeah,
move it around. It folds on you. It falls over.
Well, speaking of fat black guys, number 87 is Abdullah the Butcher. 6'1", 360, 36 years pro. His bloodthirstiness simply defies time. Not the most technically sound of wrestlers, but with his style, he doesn't have to be. In U.S. independence, the Caribbean, and Japan. And what I'll say about Abdullah the Butcher is when I was a younger fan, when I was a kid, and you wouldn't see Abdullah frequently because he'd be in and out of like Crockett or WCW or something. He never went to the WWF.
Right.
So maybe you'd see classic footage of him on one of the shows on ESPN or something. Anyway, my point that I'm getting to is when I was a kid, Abdullah the Butcher fascinated me.
Yes.
Yeah, and I how do I say it? Like, it's almost like how we talk about guys that like don't age or whatever. Like, other than like in the 60s and 70s when he was still a heavy guy, Yeah. But the 80s to like 94, he was always just kind of fat and whatever, so his character never really aged, and he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything really in the ring, but he lived his gimmick, and it was almost kind of like a timeless thing, like Abby never got older and visually wise,
Right.
know?
Right. Same guy.
So yeah, I got no problems with Abdullah the Butcher.
Not one bit.
And I don't even care about like people saying, "Oh, he didn't sell or he didn't do this." It's like, yeah, he protected his gimmick and he made his money, so good for him.
Hang on. He didn't sell? Did nobody ever see the Chamber of Horrors match where he sat in the electric chair? He sold damn good that night. And that was a joke. You know what I mean? So
And of the, I'm not a big fan, and I wasn't, I was not, I've never been a big fan of the Walk and Brawl. But if you're gonna give me Walk and Brawl, the two best to ever do it were Brody and Abby.
Yep.
And then obviously Brett and Austin did a great Walk and Brawl at WrestleMania 13.
Yes, they did.
But overall, I'm not a fan of it. But if I'm going to see two guys do it, it's probably going to be Brody and Abdullah the Butcher.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they were really kicking the shit out of each other.
Right.
And just watching them, and the other great thing was their Walk and Brawls would take place in like those stadiums in Japan or those stadiums in Texas. So there's so much room for it's not like a tight arena. So, they can just walk around up to the walls and shit. And I don't know. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, it's like the only time I enjoyed Van Hammer was when he was with Cactus Jack and Abdullah the Butcher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, number 86 here is Bob Backlund, 6'1", 234, 21 years pro, showed signs of turning rule breaker at WWF TV tapings, or was he merely frustrated? Held the world title for nearly 6 years in the pre-Hulkamania era, epitomizes no-nonsense scientific wrestling. At this point in 94, Bob Backlund is about to embark on the Mr. Backlund character, which is one of the greatest things ever.
Yes. And
fantastic.
obviously, I wasn't old enough to witness Bob Backlund's first run with the company during his 6-year world title reign and whatnot. But when he did come back and, obviously came back as the do-gooder, drink your milk, all that, howdy doody kind of guy. When he finally snapped and locked Brett in that chicken wing and wouldn't let go, as a young man, I remember screaming at the TV, let him go! You know what I mean? You're a crazy old man, let him go. I believe the character. Yeah, he was perfect. Perfect.
What I will say is, because they wanted him to turn heel, after Hogan won the belt.
Right.
And I'm glad they didn't, because it wouldn't have been what we got.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
We would have never got heel Mr. Backlund if he would have turned in 85.
Yeah.
But Nate, Archie, either one of you can answer this. Do you think, because Vince was not the Vince we got now, do you think in 92 when he went in there, Vince thought, I could get this guy to turn heel if I get him to come in?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'll bring him in, give him a year, get him comfortable, and then I'll turn him heel.
Yep. And I think also, having personally spoken to Bob Backlund myself before, I think that also what Vince did is he also brought Backlund back to find, because they didn't, obviously they knew each other when Backlund was champ, because Vince was like the announcer and his dad was in charge, but they probably didn't know each other. I think also Vince brought him back, and then, like you said, Aaron, over that year, got to know things about him that would be able to be used in a heel character, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
I wish the only thing that was sorely missing from his time as Mr. Backlund was they never had a segment where Mr. Backlund interacted with Phineas Godwin. I don't know why I think that would be hilarious, but
because Phineas couldn't read.
Yeah.
That could have worked.
One of my favorite I was watching this random episode of Superstars from 96. This is totally off topic, but saying Phineas made me think of it. I was watching, it was one of my favorite Jerry Lawler jokes, and it was because of how he and Vince handled it. the Godwins are wrestling. I don't even know who they're wrestling. It's just like I said, it's just a random superstars, maybe the New Rockers or something. But they come out, and of course, Lawler makes his Arkansas jokes and shit, But then during the match, he goes, old Phineas, he hasn't been right since the tractor accident. And Vince McMahon goes, the tractor accident? And then Lawler never elaborates on it.
Right.
Like he just moves on to something else. But I just love how they left that hanging there. I don't know if they did that on purpose.
Talking about Backlund, there's a live wire where Backlund's like doing the phone calls,
Mm-hmm.
and it's Backlund, Pettingill, and Sonny, and Backlund's like yelling at people on the phone and shit, and then it's over, and Pettingill goes, "Hey, thanks for being here, Bob." And Backlund's like, Bob, you disrespectful young man. My name is Mr. Glenn." And he fucking freaks out, and Sonny's like laughing her ass off, like she doesn't even try.
All right.
It's like that character was so fucking great.
Oh yeah, it had.
And he said all the kids all the kids in high school should be given condominiums.
Marijuana pills.
Yeah, marijuana pills. I loved when he had his fucking sunglasses or his regular glasses with the sunglasses.
With the flip top, yeah.
The glasses up. That dude was fucking great, man. He owned that fucking character.
Well, we'll get into the next one here. It looks like Mr. Mark Brew might be joining us as well.
Oh no.
Si, senor.
Welcome.
How we doing, fellas?
I specifically had it.
Oh, you guys are all chipping in when it starts getting good. I've had to sit through Mondo Clean and fucking.
We knew what we were doing, Aaron.
Number 85 is Ricky Choshu, 6 foot 246, 20 years pro, an Asian wrestling legend, still a star in New Japan, former IWGP champ, has also won titles in Mexico, represented South Korea in the 1972 Olympics before turning pro. I don't know. I mean, I've seen some Ricky Choshu, pretty hard hitting dude, but like I say on every episode of the show, I don't really watch a lot of Japanese wrestling, so I don't presume to be an expert.
I recently read an interview with Ricky, and they were telling him that Gunther or Walter, whatever you want to call him, said during an interview of his that when he was a young man growing up and he went to Japan to train, the guy that hit him the hardest was Ricky. And that's why he made his chops so hard, because he wanted to be just like Ricky in that, imposing way. And when Ricky heard that, he said, well, the guy who took my chops the best was Gunther, Walter, because even though I hit that kid as hard as I could, he just sat there and took it. He didn't say, ow. He didn't, he sold, but he didn't come back afterwards and be like, you killed me. I'm dead. Look at my chest. So, they paid respect to each other. But I've always heard that Ricky made you feel it from your chest down to your feet. You know what I mean? Even when he was trying to pull punches and not hurt you, you still felt it. So,
Mark, Aron, anything on Ricky Choshu?
I don't know Ricky, but evidently he chose you.
God bless you. Gesundheit. Number 84 is Bobby Eaton, 6 foot 233, 18 years pro, former WCW TV champion in WCW and Smoky Mountain of late. No one does the flying leg drop off the post better. Starred with Stan Lane on the Midnight Express team.
Bobby Eaton, entire show on Bobby Eaton. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Bobby Eaton, one of the greatest professional wrestlers ever.
Yep. Tag team specialist.
I think that anybody who came on our show and said that we were wrong about that, we would all just destroy them and then make them. They would fear for their life.
Yep.
Yeah, this might be a dumb statement. I don't know, but I'd say he's like, it's a different style, but I'd almost say he's like the Kurt Angle of his time.
Good point.
Yeah, I can see that.
You know,
Good
it's like
point.
the minute he got in the ring, he was just perfect. Like he didn't need any fucking
Yeah.
training. Like he just took it. Yeah.
I don't know why, but I really enjoyed him in the fucking Blue Bloods.
I enjoyed
Right?
Bobby everything he's ever done in his entire
Oh, I
fucking
agree. I was just thinking about it. He's won tag gold with everybody he's ever teamed with, correct? The first Midnight Express, then him and Stan Lane, him and Arn in the as the Dangerous Alliance. Then him and Steve Kearns as Bad Attitude won him for a couple months. Him and Regal as the Blue Bloods, and then he was TV champion twice, I think.
Either 2 or 3 times, yeah.
Yeah, lost it to Arn once and lost it to Steve Austin when Austin first won his title when Bobby was. I mean, and the freaking leg drop was effortlessly done by him. It
Mhm.
looked like he looked like a guy flying through the air and dropping his leg. You know what I mean? It was just perfect.
Right. Yeah.
So
Mark, you saying like I don't understand, like it might, I don't know why, but I liked him with the Blue Bloods or whatever. It's because
he adapted.
it was a perfect group.
Yes.
It was a guy that was a hillbilly,
Right.
couldn't talk because that was Bobby Eaton's only like drawback is that he couldn't talk, and he was in there with a comedic genius that was like, you know what, this guy's a mumble mouth, and I'll make it work.
Yeah.
And the best thing that I thought with the Blue Bloods was the fact that William Regal smacked around Jeeves, but Bobby Eaton was like, "Oh man." Like
Don't
he
do
didn't
that.
like smacking
Yeah,
around Jeeves.
don't
He's
beat
like,
up
he's a
Jeeves.
good guy, man. Yeah, he's trying to do his job. He brings me my boots. He's a nice guy. You know?
Right.
They were a perfect combination.
They were.
Yeah.
Even when they added Dave Taylor, they were perfect together.
Oh yeah.
Or as Dusty would call him, chives.
Chives. Yeah.
Chives.
My
Chives.
favorite Bobby story. I think I've told it before on this podcast. Jim Cornette and Stan Lane both get out of their contract. They get told to go home and they're done. They're getting ready to walk out the door. Bobby's right behind them with a suitcase, and Jim turns around and goes, "Bobby, you still have 6 months on your contract, baby. You don't got to go with us." He's like, "Yeah, but I want to go with you." He's like, "No, Bobby, you stay. We're fired. We're going home. You got a family to support. Don't worry about us." And he sat there like a sad dog, not wanting to let them leave without him. You know what I mean? But that was, according to Jim, that was Bobby. He was loyal.
Yeah.
You guys are leaving. I'm going too.
Number
My
83.
favorite, sorry.
No, go ahead, Aaron.
I was just gonna say my favorite Bobby Eaton story is talking about him just being kind of aloof or whatever. Was there was a documentary that I watched of him when he was still alive, and it was in like '97, and he got offered a contract extension by WCW and was going to accept it, but forgot to sign it and send it in. And they thought that he was trying to like be a tough negotiator.
Uh-huh.
So then they sent him like an even bigger contract, and he was like, "Oh dang!" Like
I'll sign this some bitch.
like I forgot, and they're like, "Oh, they thought he was playing hardball," and he was like, "Yeah, okay." And like it was just for like an exorbitant amount of money just to work like 125 days a year. And he's like, "All right."
That's good.
The next guy, since we're talking about 94, I'll say this guy shouldn't be rated this high in 1994. It's Roddy Piper, 6'2", 231, 21 years pro.
Doing?
Roddy Scott pursuing acting career, wrestled once in the WWF, beating Lawler and King of the Ring. Former Intercontinental champ.
Match.
That's what I was gonna say. All he did in '94 was referee Brett and Yoko at WrestleMania and have a shitty match with Lawler at King of the Ring.
And he did horrible as a referee in that match.
So yeah, I don't think Piper should be ranked this high in '94.
No.
I love Roddy Piper, but no.
And he did that. There is, I don't care what anybody says, and I love Roddy too. No, that's from WrestleMania 11.
Okay, sorry.
But no, what I'm saying is there's I love Roddy too, but there is Bad Piper, and those like little vignette things he did leading up to that match with Lawler, where he's like in his trailer or whatever.
Yep.
That's Bad Piper. Like
It
it's
is
just
Bad
like
What'd they say? What'd they say the other thing he did was? Because I know he fought Lawler in that shitty King of the Ring match.
oh, the only other thing he did was refereeing Brett and Yoko at WrestleMania 10.
Oh yeah, that was bad too.
Yeah.
Number 82 is Shinya Hashimoto, 5'11", 285, current IWGP champ, among the best in New Japan. Shared training group with Great Muta, Masachono, and Jushin Liger. That's a hell of a fucking class.
Right.
Yeah,
Tough
big
with
motherfucker
strong
can go,
kicks. Man. Yeah, Hashimoto, big motherfucker.
Yeah, he was built like Dr. Death Steve Williams, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Big barrel chested, big
Yeah.
arms.
He wasn't as
Wasn't as muscular, no, but he was.
He wasn't
built
as
like big.
defined as Dr. Death.
No,
he
not one bit.
He
But
was
they were big, yeah.
he was like a fucking fire hydrant, and he
Yeah.
was like I'd almost other than opposed to Dr. Death, I'd say he was more like a Harley.
Okay, still a good. That's what I mean. Big barrel chested, big
He
arms,
was a
but not
big
defined.
bastard that he could fucking move, and
Yeah, his kicks were deadly.
I think if he wouldn't have passed away, he would have wound up over here, and I think he would have been a big deal.
I agree.
I think
WCW would have brought him in during that invasion, their whole WCW versus New Japan thing. He might have had a match with Flair. It would have got him over in the States. Because tape traders loved him. That was everybody I would tape trade with always had a Hashimoto match in there, in the tape I would get from them. So, you know.
Number 81 is Larry Zbyszko. Another guy who shouldn't be ranked this high. 5'11", 248, 22 years pro. Came out of retirement to dethrone WCW TV champ Lord Steven Regal. Lost the belt several weeks later. Former AWA World Champion. Memorable feud with mentor Bruno Sammartino in 1979 and 1980.
I did like when he came back and wrestled William, though. I like that.
They had great matches. Yes.
I'm not saying he should be as high as he's rated, but I liked the Steve Regal, Larry Zbyszko feud. It was one of the last like 94, like Nate, you and I were talking about it on the last episode, you know, that weird funky time in 94 before Hulk got there, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Regal got pissed because they were doing that shit with Inoki, and he worked Inoki a little bit, and then he worked Larry. It's like I liked that. It was good WCW.
It was. I agree with that. That's when Regal was doing that whole Marcus of Queensberry rules thing, and he would make people wrestle that way. You know, no punching, no throwing over the top rope. And then Larry came back, and you know, I think they had 3 or 4 matches until Larry finally got a 15-minute time limit and won it. Yeah. I've never been a big Larry Zbyszko fan, but the only time I could say I was a fan was when he was fighting Regal. I will agree with that.
One thing I will say, I always enjoyed him more as a commentator than a wrestler.
I agree.
But if you haven't watched it, and you probably have, Archie, I don't know, and maybe you still tell me, I do. And a lot of like the 70s and early 80s WWF stuff to me is kind of boring. Okay. It just is what it is. It's not my deal. It's the WWF, but it's the WWF, and it's kind of boring. The Zbyszko, leading up to Zbyszko and Bruno, like Zbyszko's heel turn is some really good shit.
I agree. His heel turn is fantastic. I think that's what it is. I like him more as a heel, like his AWA stuff, and when, like you said, he turned on Bruno, that when he tried to be the good guy, like the feud with Scott Hall and Eric Bischoff and all that during the NWO, you know what I mean? Because when he was feuding with Regal, he still wasn't really a full-blown face. He was still being Larry. Versus like when he left the Dangerous Alliance and he was going full-on, you know, good guy, he was kind of boring. Yeah. So I think I like him more as a heel.
We'll leave Larry land and head back to Japan here. Number 80, Masa, My Hero Chono. 5'11", 235, 10 years pro. Tokyo native has been trained by the likes of Lou Thez, from whom he learned the STF. Former NWA champion, has extensive U.S. experience in CWA, Continental, and WCW. Masa Chono.
Yeah, he was somebody I was very big into. When he debuted in WCW, and then they gave him the NWA title, and him and Muda traded it, and then he fought Barry for it. You know what I mean? It was I was very big into Masachono. That's when I started to get into Japanese wrestling a little more. Like, don't get me wrong. Did I love Jushin Liger and Muda and them? Yes. But Masachono was the doorway for me to get into Japanese wrestling.
Chono was one of those 90s pillars of Japanese wrestling, and I was he the best crop out of the group? No, but he was stellar. I enjoyed him.
He was a hard hitting. He is personifying of the word strong style. You know what I mean? That's what Japanese strong style is supposed to be. Those hard shots, those kicks, and then you throw in a classic wrestling move every now and then.
And I know he was a bigger star than these guys, like comparative to Japan to the US, but I'd put him in like a group of like a barbarian.
Yeah. In the US,
It's
that's a good call.
Like, unless you know what you're looking at, you don't know this guy's actually a fucking badass. You know?
Oh yeah. His second run when he came back with the NWO with the long black coat and the sunglasses, that Matrix look, made him look more badass, because his first run, he was in white and green tights with a Japanese flag on him and being the good guy. You know what I mean? So, but he was much bigger in Japan than he could have, he needed more time here, and he just didn't want to do it. He was happier wrestling in Japan.
Mark, any comments on Masachono?
I didn't get to see a whole shit ton of them, but what I did see, he was that smash mouth in your face type wrestler.
Mm-hmm. All right, number 79 is a guy that Aaron knows I was always a mark for. The Patriot, 6'4", 251, 6 years pro, masked man, back in the U.S. as Marcus Bagwell's new tag team partner in WCW. Talented fan favorite, had started in Japan, ex-Global TV and North American champion. My first, real exposure to him was Global.
Yeah.
And I got into him there, and then I was so excited when he went to WCW, and then I was so excited when he went to the WWF, even though he went to the WWF 2 years too fucking late.
I agree.
Hurt. He was hurt.
Because if he would have went there in say 94, 95, that gimmick would have worked there. But he came in 97, where the attitude was starting to kick in and everything.
Yep.
And it was almost to the point where for him to even be over, you would have had to do what they did with Kurt Angle and make him a heel.
Right. Exactly.
Well, they were going to do that. I think they were going to do that because they started doing Del Welk's vignettes.
Right. Which I didn't like. They took the mask off of him. They had him explain his life story.
It's because they were trying to get him away from that Patriot gimmick.
Right, the good boy gimmick. I get it.
But he I saw shoot interviews, and he was on Stone Cold's podcast a little bit before he passed away, and he just admitted on that one that he lied to them, that he lied to them about his physical condition because he wanted to get a WWF run and make some more money, and he was like, I was fucked up when I got there. He's like, I was on so many pills and all that shit. And it's that's why it didn't work out. But it's like Nate said, and he even said it, if I would have got there sooner,
definitely,
probably would have been a bigger deal.
And
I gotta see.
But when that dude was healthy, he was on point. And Stars and Stripes was a great fucking tag team.
I was just going to say, we're talking about 94 here, and Aaron and I discussed it a couple of weeks ago. I brought it up. I am a fan of Marcus Bagwell until Buff.
Right.
I'm not a fan of him as
Right.
Buff Bagwell, but before that, I like Marcus Bagwell, and I
Yeah,
thought
when he
him
was
and
the cookie
Patriot were a
cutter,
great
good,
tag
smiling
team.
boy. Yeah, he was great. They were a great tag team, and Mark Bagwell's tag team with Too Cold Scorpio was even great. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? But the Patriot in WCW, I think he could have gotten a United States title run. Should have been done because he's the damn Patriot. You know what I mean? But
Right.
he got a solid one tag title run and then a short one too, and they lost them both. I think to Harlem Heat. But then when he got to the WWE, I would have loved him to have an Intercontinental title run. But let's be honest, during that stage of the Attitude Era, if you weren't a part of DX or your name wasn't Owen Hart or Stone Cold, you weren't getting anywhere near a title.
Mm-hmm.
So bad timing.
Mark?
We're talking about Buff?
Patriot.
No, Patriot.
Same one from WWF?
Yes.
Yes.
Like, I enjoyed the gimmick. Like, I don't know if it's just something with fucking Southern people and we like those type of gimmicks, but I mean, as far as in the ring, he was solid as fuck.
Oh yeah.
Like you were talking about bell to bell wrestlers all the time, Nate.
Mm-hmm.
Dale
Yeah,
definitely when that bell rung, he was fucking on.
He was on. Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
funny story. We took my nephew when he was like 5 or 6 to an independent event down the street from where we live. So we took all the kids, my son, his son, my cousin's son, a few other boys, and the two headliners were Jimmy Snuka and the Patriot. So we're psyched. And there's going to be a couple other guys. Salvatore Sincere's on the card, and a couple other guys.
I
So
know
we're
where this is
watching
going.
We're watching the show. Salvatore Sincere took on a jobber in the early part of the show, and Jimmy Snuka is in the main event with the Patriot against two jobbers, two local guys. So we get in the ring to start, line up to take pictures with Jimmy and the Patriot. So we take a picture with Jimmy, and then I guess I'm getting closer to the Patriot. I realize it's not Del Wicks. It's Salvatore Sincere in the mask and the tights. And I looked at my son, and when you grab your kids and you shun them from something that's bad for them, like, come on, we gotta go. I literally just walked the other way and went out of the ring. My son's like, but I want to meet the Patriot. Like, that's not the Patriot. And
Yeah,
I
you're
walked out of the ring.
you're Salvatore Insincere, my friend.
I was so upset. I'm like, he wrestled earlier in the night. I didn't realize that it was going to be him. I forgot that he bought part of the gimmick.
Tom Brady was like in shape fat.
Right.
Like Tommy Dreamer. Del Wicks was cut. So when you can blatantly tell when it's Tom Brady in the fucking Patriot outfit.
Del Wicks is like that pinkish hue white. Salvatore Sincere was tanned. Mm-hmm. So I understood from the tan. I'm looking at it. I'm like, that's not Del Wicks. Get out of here.
Archie was like, I've been to the Jersey Shore, motherfucker. You're from there too.
You're no Patriot. You're a Guido.
You're a Guido, right?
Number 78 is Typhoon. 6'7", 384, 10 years pro. Back in the WWF, challenging Yokozuna, Earthquake's partner in the natural disasters. Has also competed as U.S. Steel, Big Steel Man, Tugboat, and Shockmaster. 94 was weird because like they brought Typhoon back early in the year just without Earthquake. Then he was there for a minute. The most memorable thing I remember is, for some reason, I always remember him wrestling L.A. Gore on a Monday Night Raw. And then he goes away, and as he goes away, Earthquake comes back, and they go into the Earthquake Yokozuna sumo wrestling thing. But it's like the natural disasters were there in 94, but never together.
Bad booking.
Yeah. Number 77.
That might have prolonged the life of the fucking ring, though.
True. Very true. Number 77 is Big Stan Hansen. 6'3", 322, 20 years pro. Frequent Japanese competitor. Occasionally appears stateside. Famed lariat clothesline. And is as rugged as they come. One-time AWA and WCW U.S. champion. They don't really go into detail what he's doing in 94 here. I assume just competing in Japan, beating people up.
I can't speak a lot to Stan Hansen's 1994 career because,
Right.
like you said, it was a lot in Japan, but I'm sure he was just kicking ass and knocking little Japanese people over as he walked to the ring.
Listen. I'm a big fan of Stan Hansen for the plain simple fact.
Oh, we all are.
He lends a layup to one of my favorite fucking things that we've talked about on the show. Remember the To Catch a Predator with Stan Hansen?
It's a whole different fucking show, buddy.
Oh yeah. That shit was fucking hilarious.
The pedophiles in the room trying to hit on the 14-year-old girl, and around the corner comes Stan Hansen.
Stan Hansen. Chewing his tobacco, looking him dead in the eye.
Yeah.
Fucking
I got a big fat wife and 2 big fat kids at home.
And you're trying to fuck them.
Let me talk to you for a second. Come here,
Yeah.
sit down. Benny, don't sit down. I can hit you harder when you're standing.
Yeah, or the motherfucker tries to run away and he lariats the fuck out of him.
Yeah.
Right.
The bowl of
I don't know what I
bowl
got a bigger problem with. That you're trying to fuck this child or you brought Zeba.
cracks
I'll
the guy.
drink it, but I ain't gonna like it.
Cracks the guy over the head with the bowl of fruit that's on the kitchen counter.
The bowl rope of fruit.
Number 76 is Ultimo Dragon. 5'7", 175, 9 years pro. This international superstar remains the UWA middleweight champion. Injuries to his knees and ankles have slowed down this great aerial star. Former IWGP junior heavyweight champion. And I want to say...
Let me say this. Sorry. You're going to tell me knee injuries have slowed this guy down. How was he before his knee?
I was just about to say, for any of you that haven't, you know the greatness of Ultimo Dragon in during the Monday Night Wars and shit. Go watch him before that, and you'll be amazed. He was even better.
Demon. He was a speed demon.
Every time
I love
Ultimo.
There was a time where he was almost as fast as Mystico.
Right.
Every time I think Ultimo, though, I immediately go to where they fucking had those 7 belts on him at that one fucking time.
The J Crown. That was the New Japan J Crown.
It's like Jesus.
That was how I first found out that WWF had a light heavyweight division, because one of the belts said WWF light heavyweight champion on it. And I was like, what? Why is that involved in this? And then I went back and looked, and it was, they had a belt. A Japanese guy won it one year and took him to Japan, and they never saw it again.
And I love the fact
Ultimo Dragon watches AEW now, and he's like, they have too many titles.
Too many belts.
Everybody get a belt.
My favorite thing about the guy was that Japan was like, nah, nobody will pay to watch you. We don't like you.
Right. Go to the United States.
And then he goes to Mexico.
Oh, going to Mexico, yeah.
Just fucking
kills
it. And then they're like, we want you to come back. And he's like, fuck you. I'm going to stick around here.
Right.
Yeah, that's fucking great. That dude, the Ultimo Dragon, is in my top 20 favorite wrestlers of all time. And I don't think there's a lot. Like I said, he's in my top 20, and there's not a lot of people that if they try to tell you that he's not in theirs, they don't know what they're fucking talking about. That dude is great. I fucking love him.
Great as a heel, great as a face. Didn't matter who he had with him. Didn't need a manager. Didn't need to talk. You know what I mean? He just needed to wrestle.
I liked that springboard fucking back elbow he used to do.
Oh yeah,
that motherfucker was extremely talented.
Number 75 is Doug Gilbert, 6'2", 241, 8 years pro, brother of Eddie, with whom he once feuded, is again tearing up the USWA, former Southern champ, feuding now with Brian Christopher and Jerry Lawler, has worldwide experience.
And I think this is right before the promo incident. I think. I think
Yeah,
he did the promo incident in '95.
I think that was early '95. Yeah.
Wait, what is the promo incident? I think I'm left out of the loop in that.
He got mad and went on live because Memphis was always live.
Right.
And he went out there and basically cut a promo talking about how Brian Christopher was Jerry Lawler's kid, which was never supposed to be talked about. And then he said Randy Hales was in the back smoking crack and Jerry Lawler was a pedophile. And he just did this entire fucking promo on TV. And
sounds like Gilbert to
he got
me.
pissed off and basically went out there and basically said the truth.
Right.
And it was a big to do. And I think this was right before then. And he basically fucked himself over because, like, if Doug was ever gonna get anywhere else, where was he gonna go out of Memphis? It was either gonna be WCW or the WWF.
Yeah, and I think it would have leaned more
now,
towards the WCW.
Now you've just
Shot
said this
yourself in
shit
the
about
foot.
Lawler.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like Lawler is a WWF guy. They're not going to put you up there now.
And he couldn't go to he couldn't go to ECW because of the way him and Eddie left ECW.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah.
All right. Number 74 is Akira Nogami, 5'9", 216, 7 years pro, a mainstay in New Japan. Anyone who can beat Jushin Liger twice for the IWGP Heavyweight title must be taken seriously. Has struggled somewhat in recent months.
I don't know.
I don't have a lot to say.
I don't know him, actually. I can honestly say I don't know him.
I know the name, and if I saw him, I'd probably be like, oh yeah, that's him. But 73, Bruiser Bedlam, 5'10", 235, 10 years pro, now in Smoky Mountain under Jim Cornette's tutelage, has an excellent stomach claw, one-time WWF competitor, was known as Johnny K9 in Motor City Wrestling. And if you want to hear some great Bruiser Bedlam stories, go listen to Chad Austin on Reliving the Extreme.
He was charged with first-degree murder, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, absolutely he was. That's the one he was charged. That's the one he was charged with.
Yeah, that was the one they hit the hardest with. Yeah.
Didn't they do like some fucking dark side thing on him?
They did dark side in the ring 2 seasons ago, and it was actually pretty damn good.
And he did a lot of crazy shit, but my favorite thing I ever heard anybody say was he'd just walk into like a Target and put on flip-flops. Like he'd take his old flip-flops off, put on the new flip-flops, and just walk out. Didn't even try to hide it. They were like, you're supposed to pay for that. He's like, I'm good. And just keep on walking. Cornette said he drove from like Canada to Tennessee with like no shirt on and like a Jeep. Like, this guy's fucking crazy.
Number 72 is a guy that I have always in the back of my mind wondered why, especially he never got picked up by either Jim Crockett Promotions or the WWF. Because I was a fan. He's a great promo. He could do heel or babyface. It's Iceman King Parsons. 5'10", 245, 15 years pro. Always a global contender and former 2-time world-class champion. Has feuded of late with Action Jackson, St. Louis native. I don't know why.
I bet he was a homesteader.
Maybe. But I always thought, like, looking back on it, it would have been fun in the WWF to put Iceman Parsons and Coco Beware together as a tag team.
Yeah. I agree with that. I watched him in Global. I saw some of him in World Class. But yeah, after Global, he just kind of disappeared. I never saw him.
I just don't. I mean, like Aaron said, maybe it's because he was a homesteader and he just like.
There's only two things I can think of. He was a homesteader, or he was in World Class. So I'm just gonna put that out there. That maybe he might have had a couple problems.
Maybe.
He
Just saying.
said, "I'm just gonna put that out there."
We're just gonna put the Coke on the table and say he might have had a couple of problems.
A couple of problems.
A few bumps in the road.
Yeah.
We ain't
There were more
talking
than a
about
few
wrestling bumps.
Yeah, there were more than a few bumps, Mark.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Okay, there we go. All right. So number 71 here in the PWI 500 is Hacksaw Jim Duggan, 6'3", 280, 17 years pro, Glens Falls, New York native, now in WCW and Independence, as patriotic as ever, with superb three-point stance and clothesline ex-WWF star, still famed for his trusty 2x4. And I love how you guys just right there on the dime, both at the same time. That was great. Good shit, pal.
Can't say Hacksaw Jim Duggan without saying ho afterwards.
Yeah, I like how he nonchalantly rolled into that and then like expected us not to react.
Right. We're
I can't say nonchalantly that. Sorry, Archie, go ahead.
No, like we're gonna be gentlemen, and be like, "Oh, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, we like
Hacksaw.
him." No,
Hacksaw James Dugan. Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Aaron.
I was just gonna say that I respect the guy and whatever in his long career or whatever, but he's just a guy that just never did it for me. Sorry.
He said in an interview recently that he never got along with Steve Austin, The Rock, or Triple H. And my answer to my words when I read that was like, yeah, because you were past your prime and nobody was working with you anymore. Because you're like, when they saw me, they weren't very friendly or respectful. I'm like, what constitutes not being friendly and respectful, though? You weren't wrestling anymore.
Right.
Like the only time that I could even say like, oh yeah, that guy kinda was like cool with me was when he worked for Watts.
Right.
And Nate, you and I just like last week just kind of like crushed Watts a little bit.
I did anyway. He was apparently my sacred cow to slaughter last week, but that's
yeah. But Duggan might be my sacred cow this week. I just, like I said, I respect what he did in the business and everything like that. But
super nice guy too.
Yeah, he was super nice to me too. Like he signed my card. And he said, hey, let it dry a little bit. And then he dropped it. And he was like, oops, let me sign another one for you. And he signed, like, he got a card out of his, like, stack or whatever that he brought for people to sign. So he signed 2 autographs for me for one. But I was just, and that was cool. And, like, I'm happy that he's beat his cancer and all that. But just as a wrestler, I'd put him as, like, my Ronnie Garvin.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like where you could understand why people liked him and you respect the guy and you're not going to say that he wasn't a tough son of a bitch. But
I get it.
When I watch him, I'm just like, I don't see it. Especially
he's like to me, he's one of those
97 WCW Jim Duggan. It's like, Jesus Christ, this is terrible.
To me, he's one of those wrestlers that really understood less is more sometimes. Because we knew we wasn't gonna get no fucking Hurricane Ranas from Hacksaw Jim Duggan, so we just accepted him for what the fuck
he was. Suplex would have been nice every now and then.
and like I said, I get it why people like him, and I won't fault anybody for liking him, and I won't discredit anything the guy did, but just to me, never liked it.
Look, like Aaron said, very, very nice guy, very respectable, loves his fans. To me, like after his first part with the WWF, he only really got jobs where he got his jobs because Hogan was there.
Yeah.
He was one of those guys.
He was one of those guys that followed Hogan around.
Brutus, the Nasty
Good
Boys.
for him.
You know, he knew who breaded it, who was who buttered his bread. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
Number
You know,
7.
I mean, no fault to him. Guess who else followed
no,
Hulk Hogan around? Bobby Heenan, and he's my favorite. So I won't say anything bad about that. But I'm just saying, Duggan just did nothing for me. But who's the next guy?
It's number 70, and it's Rick Martel, 6 foot 236,
yeah.
22 years pro, French Canadian star back in the WWF. Lost the finals of the Intercontinental Tournament to Razor Ramon last fall. Also competes on the independent circuit. Former AWA World Champion, dedicated to his craft. He was one of those guys in '94, like I was talking about with Typhoon and Earthquake, and there was like Greg Valentine too. There were some of those guys that were like big during the rock and wrestling era, where in the WWF they'd be on like 2 Raws and then they wouldn't be around for like 3 months. Then they'd be back on Raw again, and like Rick Martel is back. Just like some of those guys were just in and out in '94.
Well, I don't think they were in and out. I think they were doing the house show loops. You know,
Right. I guess I should say in and
WWF
out on television.
Yeah, because WWF's business was down, so it's like, hey, can we put on our fucking sign that fucking I don't know who was there in '94. Trying to think of like Atom Bomb's gonna be here, or if we put that Rick Martel's gonna be here,
right,
the
if
more
we're in
people are gonna
Canada or
show
something
up.
like that, right?
Yeah.
I will say though, Rick Martel, I think it was 97, 98 when he made his WCW debut. He still could go.
Oh yeah.
His
Yeah,
matches with
if
Booker
he wouldn't have
T
fucked
and
his knee up, he would have had a bigger
Oh yeah,
run in WCW.
oh yeah. So, but Martel 94, it was he almost had 1 foot out the door in WWF.
Yeah, it was about over for him. But let me see here. Number 69 is Jacques of the Quebecers. 6'2", 253, 15 years pro, has split with ex-teammate Pierre amid rumors that he may soon retire. The Quebecers were WWF World Tag Team Champs for several months. Former Intercontinental Champion when known as the Mountie. 94,
69.
early 1994, Monday Night Raw.
Yes.
I contest, and everybody knows I am a WWF, WWE guy. That is my promotion of choice my entire life. I am an expert. I guess I'd call myself an expert, or at least try to be a historian of the company.
You are.
Have watched everything that they've ever produced multiple times, from January to probably. And WrestleMania 10 is a great WrestleMania. Don't get me wrong. And there's some great wrestling. But from January till probably August of '94 is the most boring that fucking promotion ever was. And the Quebecers were the best thing about Raw.
Oh,
in
Johnny Polo was amazing.
Yes.
You know, the matches they had with the Head Shrinkers, the Steiners, Men on a Mission. They had great tag teams to go up against. They had a good tag team roster. And they made sure they made it count with everybody they were in the ring with.
And Jacques Rougeau is a guy that we've said it about a lot of people. And his, like when we say this a lot of times, like, we talk about guys getting in their own way or whatever. Usually it's about like substance abuse or not wanting to do whatever. He was the guy that got in his own way because he just was kind of an ass.
Mm-hmm.
From everything I've ever read about him, and even him talking about himself, it's like, because he was really fucking good, man.
Yeah.
Like Jacques Rougeau was a hell of a fucking worker, and he was a great fucking personality and everything.
Still
but
going to this day.
Like just everything I've ever read about the guy, he just rubbed people the wrong fucking way because he was like a bigger fan of himself than he should have been.
I just want to point out the irony of him being number 69 and carrying around a shock stick.
That's good, Mark. That's a good catch.
Like he's like, I should be every year around the Hall of Fame. He's like, I don't know I'm not in the Hall of Fame. It's like, Because you pissed everybody off, man.
I'm the
The
Mountie.
Mountie.
Number
And him and
60.
Jimmy Hart were great together.
Oh yeah.
It's fucking good shit.
Number 68 is Mr. Hughes, 6'5", 308, 6 years pro. Well-dressed ECW contender, often appears on other independent cards.
Well-dressed.
Stoic ex-WWF competitor, lets his wrestling do the talking. Quite agile for his size, played football at Kansas State. Mr. Hughes.
I don't know why that well-dressed part.
Well, I mean, to their credit, he wore a white dress shirt and a pair of suspenders, so he
Should have
was
come out to
well-dressed,
well-dressed man.
right?
Yeah.
No, he
Sharp-dressed man. Sorry.
He looked menacing when he was with Harley, and as part with Luger and his time in WCW. He was pretty damn good. You know what I mean? I remember when Ron Simmons headbutted him, and his glasses that he was wearing exploded, and they're like, he got shards of glass in his eye, and they tried to make a big deal about him. You know what I mean? But then he kind of withered afterwards because he went to WWF and he was with Triple H. Then he was with Jericho.
He could have came out, Nate. He could have came out to King's like well-respected man about town.
My favorite
about him being dressed nice
in 94 he was in ECW. My favorite thing he did in ECW was that time Jason comes and asks him if he can help him and be his protection, and all he says to Jason is, "Well, you got money?
You got money?" Yeah. I loved when Vince wasn't fucking insane, when he'd make fun of guys on commentary,
Mm-hmm.
There's a Raw when Curtis Hughes is feuding with the Undertaker, and Undertaker leaves him a wreath.
Yeah.
And Curtis Hughes grabs the card off the wreath, and he's looking at it, and he looks at it for like maybe 22, maybe 30 seconds. And then he goes, "Rest in peace." And Vince McMahon's like, it took him that long to read that? It's so fucking funny. But yeah, Curtis Hughes pretty much sucked. And the only person that used him right was Paul Heyman. I'm just going to say it. That was the only time that guy was used right, was when he was in ECW.
I will have one caveat to that. I will throw one more thing in there where he was used well. He was good as part
Luger.
With Luger and Harley Race as part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was good in that.
Yeah, I'll
role,
give you that. I'll give you that.
But yeah. 67 is Samu. 6'4", 260, 13 years pro. He and fellow head shrinker Fatu finally won the WWF World Tag Team title with help from Captain Lou Albano and manager Afa. Crazed alumnus of the Samoan SWAT team, capable solo wrestler. And of course, in 94, at some point, he disappears and is replaced by
he was the craziest of them at that point. And I don't mean like fighting wise, I mean like partying wise. I've always read that was Samu was like, he was the party dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It is funny though when he leaves and they replace him with Barbarian as Sayone.
Yeah.
On the first Raw that Barbarian appears, they mention him and they're like, Samu went on Vince says something like, Samu will be back. Albano says he's gone fishing.
Yeah.
He's gone fishing. And then the next week on Raw, Lawler or whoever the heel commentator is says about Samu and that fishing trip. And Vince is like, yeah, he's not coming back. So I don't know what happened on the character Samu's crazy fishing trip, but he's not coming back.
He came back as a pinstripe wearing gangster.
Yes, the
Samoan
gangster party for like a month.
And then they threw him to ECW.
Yeah, we're sure about to. Speaking of new shows, they're about to debut next week on Reliving the Extreme. Just saying.
Number 66 is Brian Knobbs, 6'1", 295, 7 years pro. He and fellow Nasty Boy Jerry Saggs dominated the WCW tag team scene before losing to Cactus Jack and Kevin Sullivan. The toughest of the street brawlers, Takes guff from no one. I'll contest that 94 is the Nasty Boys' best year.
Yes.
It's their stopping point. Like they suck after this.
Yes, like I know they did great shit in like late 1990 with the Steiners, but 94 is their most consistent, hard hitting, awesome year.
Yeah, they had how many matches with Cactus Jack and multiple partners?
Yeah,
He went from Max Payne to Kevin Sullivan, David Sullivan. You know what I mean? So it was, but they had great matches. That Philadelphia street fight was unbelievable. You know what I mean? But then after that, they just
that Spring Stampede shit was great, and like Nate said, like in the '90s with the Steiner brothers. In '91, they had that great feud with the Hart Foundation. It was just up until this point, they were great, and then when he got away from Jerry, and I don't want to say anything bad, but it's like he was Hogan's buddy, so we knew he was gonna have a job,
right?
And he wasn't as sucking on the tit as Brutus was, but he was one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, I just got to mark this shit on the calendar because Aaron just said he doesn't want to say anything bad.
Isn't that the seventh seal that means the world is coming to an end?
Like that's the final straw.
I like the Nasty Boys. Jerry Saggs is the fucking shit. I don't know if he's been on our list yet, but Jerry Saggs is the worker of that group.
I like the Nasty Boys once they're done. When they're done with the feud with Cactus and Sullivan, and then they begin feuding with the Public Enemy around '98. Horrible.
I don't know why.
They went to TNA and they got even worse.
I don't know why, but that fucking Pity City move was over with me.
Yeah. we were gross children.
You know who sold the Pity City the best?
Who's that?
Fucking Sherry. Sherry sold that shit so good. Like when they were doing their little feud with when her and Robert Parker were Love Bugs and Harlem Heat and Nasty Band. She sold the fucking Pity City like a champ. She was
my little fried pie.
My little fried pie. Oh, she got my blood pressure up. I tell you,
it was great shit.
Number 65 is Chris Adams, 6'1", 228, 16 years pro, among Global's most popular wrestlers. Won the Old World Class title 4 times, virtually feuding with General Skandor Akbar, a mainstay of Texas wrestling during its recent ups and downs.
And he's definitely a guy that I can say got in his own fucking way because of drugs.
Yes, and I will also say this for him. It's an everyday occurrence now. Everybody fucking does it. Some people do it 17 times in one match. But I dare anybody, and I'm including Shawn Michaels, I dare anybody to find anybody that does a better super kick than Chris
I'll
Adams.
agree with that.
Fucking invented it.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, sometimes guys invent a hold, and they're not the best to do it. But
and he didn't need a thigh slap to get it over. It looked like he connected.
They just kick you in the fucking face. Like, him and then Von Erichs, they didn't fuck around. Like, people can, like, I know they were all pilled out and did whatever they did or whatever, but anybody that tells you about working with, like, the Von Erichs and Chris Adams and Gino, like, those guys didn't fuck around. They were kicking the shit out of each other. And Adams was right up in the top of it. And if that guy would have had his fucking head on straight,
oh yeah,
he would have been one of the biggest stars in the fucking world.
All right, 64. I know here us, the four horsemen of the We Can't Wrestle podcast, are all going to agree that we love this guy. Because who wouldn't? Paul Orndorff, 5'11", 253, 15 years pro. Rugged Rule Breaker has teamed up with Paul Roma to form Pretty Wonderful tag team. Could renew famed mid-'80s feud with Hulk Hogan in WCW. Still can't stand the Paula chance.
I love Paul Orndorff. I don't think he should be this high. I don't think he should be this high on the list in 94. And I especially don't think that Hulk Hogan was going to go into WCW in 94 and be like, I want to work with Paul Orndorff.
Right.
Because he's like, Paul Orndorff kicked the shit out of me in '84. I don't want or '85. I don't want any more to do with that. I'm
Couple
old
thing-
now. You know what I
couple-
mean? Like it's
yeah.
like I took that shit when I was 25. I'm not gonna take this when I'm 40 or whatever.
I know we discussed him last week, Aaron, because he came up last week. But I'll just reiterate: I was never a huge Paul Roma fan, except when he was in a tag team, and the best he ever was when he teamed with Paul Orndorff.
I agree. Pretty Wonderful is one of the premier tag teams in WCW, in my opinion.
Yeah, and
I
I'll
got
be
that.
honest. I enjoyed Power and Glory just because that's what I was personally.
Oh yeah. Power and
Yeah.
Glory also, yes.
Because they always had those good matches with the fucking Road Warriors and shit.
Right.
And they also had Pretty Wonderful. Also had one of those theme musics in WCW where you knew it was them, and you knew when they were coming out it was going to be a badass like. Uh-oh.
It's like, oh, somebody's getting fucked up. They're gonna have the fat ass assassin with them. Somebody's getting hurt. Yeah, I love Paul Orndorff, but I wouldn't put him as what was it, 72?
64.
64. I wouldn't even put him in 72, let alone 64. And
God damn,
94.
Aaron is on a fantastic voyage tonight.
And number 63 is Fatu, 6'2", 269 years pro. Captain Lou Albano's advising helped him and fellow head shrinker Samu capture the WWF World Tag Team title. Brawler with technical skills, Samoan SWAT team won world-class tag title 3 times.
See, I think it's funny because they'd be like, oh, Fatu, who's part of the Samoan SWAT team. But Buckhouse Buck has only been wrestling for a year.
Yeah, he's fucking.
Like,
You guys haven't been on a couple of these shows where we've been kind of dogging on what they do and don't do in kayfabe here. Like
Right.
they have in here that Bunkhouse Buck was only wrestling for a year, even though Jimmy Golden had been wrestling for like 23 years.
He debuted in like 1969.
Yeah, they said this is 94, and they said Demolition Axe had been wrestling for 7 years.
Bullshit. Again, bullshit.
Yeah, he was the Masked Superstar for 10 years before that. But anyway, number 62 is American Love Machine. 5'10", 210, 7 years pro. AAA grappler managed by figure skater Tanya Harding on Pacific Northwest card.
Art bar.
Has also competed in Japan. Former tag team partner with AAA champion Conan before turning on him.
Yes.
Art bar.
Art Bar and Eddie Guerrero, one of the great tag teams that didn't get to last.
Yeah, Art Bar invented the frog splash. And if it wouldn't have been kind of like a Chris Adams, if he wouldn't have been as fucked up as he was, he probably would have been a bigger deal.
All right. 61, Jim Neidhart. 6'1", 275, 15 years pro. The Anvil returned to the WWF where he is aligned with his brother-in-law Owen Hart against Owen's brother Brett. Has teamed with both, also a veteran of Independence and WCW. The Anvil, number 61 and 94. What do we think?
I think it's a good rating for him at that point.
No, it wasn't.
I can see. All right, Aaron.
Food.
Aaron, here's where I'll say I can defend this because this magazine is kayfabe, and he is working a program with the world champion and Owen.
Right.
So I can judge. I can justify it.
Okay.
Not like they're talking about High Energy and Jim Neidhart or whatever they were, the new foundation. You know,
Ladies and gentlemen, in their pajama pants, High Energy.
Jim didn't work a lot in '94 on TV or anything like that. He was just like a corner man.
Yeah. It wasn't until Bulldog came in that he started wrestling again. I always wondered, Nate, when High Energy ended and they decided to do the new foundation, did Coco just hand over his suspenders and pants to Jim Neidhart? Or did Jim have to buy his own?
The white man taking something else from the black man.
He's like, here, I didn't want to wear this stupid hairdo anyway.
Right. I'm gonna see if Iceman King Parsons wants to be my tag team partner.
Right.
Fucking honkies.
Damn
Tired
cracker.
of you Canadian motherfuckers. I made myself laugh. I'm sorry. Number 60. Number 60 is Big Scott Norton, 6'3", 360, 5 years pro, Minnesota native, back in Japan where he's far better known. Teamed with Hercules to win the IWGP tag title in 93, one-time arm wrestling champ, massive Vern Gagne protege. And I have always said in the entire 1990s, this is the one guy I just can't fucking believe Vince McMahon never hired.
Right.
I can tell you why it didn't happen.
Okay.
Vince would have not, and I'm sure he probably tried. Vince would not have let him go to Japan.
Right.
This is true.
And he was making more money going to Japan than
Yep.
Vince would have ever paid him. The thing that blew my fucking mind was that WCW let people go to Japan, and they had Ray Hernandez under contract, and they had Scott Norton under contract.
They never let them
making
team,
appearances at the same time, and they never had them fucking team.
They
No,
were
Like,
too.
instead of having these guys team, let's make Ray Hernandez the
Wear a red
fucking
sock on
super
his face.
invader.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Super Invader.
It's like the
Ugh.
every time I see Hercules as Super Invader, I think of Raising Arizona. Boy, you got
Yeah.
a panty on your
You
head.
got a
Panty on
panty
your
on your
head.
head. Right.
Yeah, it's
They
like,
never
oh,
made anything.
we're not gonna
You
have
knew it
we're not
was
gonna
him.
have this we're not gonna have this fucking team, but we'll have the Cole twins
Right.
and Fire and Lightning or Thunder and Lightning or whatever. It's like,
Thunder
what
and
the
Lightning,
fuck
yep.
is going on?
Yep.
God damn.
I remember, Aaron, you mentioning the Cole twins. And like 6 months after the Cole twins debuted, Harlem Heat debuted. And one of the Cole twins and I think Booker T shared a name at the time because they weren't Booker T and Stevie Ray when they first debuted. They were Kane and Cole, right? And they had to that's why they changed the Harlem Heat's name because they didn't want anybody to get confused.
My
The Cole
favorite,
twins.
my favorite moment in the history of the Cole twins. Let me go on here, and then we'll move on. But you made me think of it.
Go ahead.
They do their little twin magic thing or whatever, and then they're outside the ring, and Jesse Ventura's like, "All right, here we got the Cole twins. This one is Keith, and this one is Kent." And Kent Cole goes, "No, that's Keith." Or Kent Cole goes, "No, that's Keith, and I'm Kent." And Jesse Ventura on live TV goes, "Nobody cares."
Nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody cares. Like, nobody.
Right. You're a filler. You're not even worth
I
us
don't know if he just said what was on his mind and it was like an oops thing.
Right.
He did that the entire time he was in WCW.
He said nobody
cares.
He said that the entire time he was there.
Fuck.
Whatever was on his fucking mind.
Let's be honest though, Jesse wasn't wrong. They were one step up from being the damn Mulkeys.
Yeah, they were.
You know what I mean? So
the Mulkeys were better.
We're better, exactly.
Yeah, they could at least bump.
When he fucking said, every time I see that, I lose my shit.
Yep.
He's just like,
Nobody
cares. That's a great gimmick. Remember how we used to do gimmicks?
Yeah.
Brutally honest Jesse Ventura.
Right.
All right. Anyway, here we go. 59. Kensuke Sasaki. 5'10", 233, 8 years pro, one of Japan's strongest wrestlers, famed for power attack, including suplexes and hip toss variations, and a dynamic clothesline. He and Hawk are ex-IWGP tag team champions.
He was the Power Warrior.
Power Warrior.
Power Warrior.
Yeah.
Good fucking worker.
Definitely.
Snug, solid, fire plug. I like Kensuke Sasaki.
And he was also one of those guys like Chono that was good at coming over here because strong style wrestling in Japan and strong style wrestling in the United States are two completely different fucking things.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And he was like Chono, where he was the kind of guy that could come over here and really adapt to the style over here.
Oh yeah.
And still look different, you know?
They,
Well, I mean, goddamn, a neon fucking road warrior, you're gonna look too.
well, right, but when he used to come to the States, he would come normal, Mark, with just like a robe and he would wear
Yeah,
like boxing shorts. But he got over, you know, they literally strapped the United States title to his waist for 6 months and let him run over everybody, including Sting.
Yeah, but he came over here and realized that, like over there, and I'm not knocking Japanese wrestling. Over there, you're just gonna kick the shit out of each other and do whatever. But over here, you gotta tell a story, you
Right.
know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he got that.
Number 58 is Kevin Sullivan, 5'11", 252, 23 years pro. He and Cactus Jack won the WCW World Tag Titles from the Nasty Boys. Tenacious veteran also appears in ECW and other independents. Not as bloodthirsty as he once was.
He's also not 5'11".
Why did they have him listed as 5'11"? No way. No.
Kevin Sullivan's not 5'11".
That man is 5'1".
I'm taller than Kevin Sullivan.
We're all taller than Kevin. I think my granddaughter is taller than Kevin Sullivan.
I'm pretty sure half of the micro wrestling league
Right.
is fucking taller than Kevin Sullivan.
Right. Damn.
Now you listen here, I'm the Taskmaster.
I mean, I'm taller than Kevin Sullivan now could probably kick the shit out of me. So don't get me wrong. But Kevin Sullivan's not 5'11".
Yes, the original name of the Dungeon of Doom was the Lollipop Guild, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
Listen,
With Mini Kamala.
he said Kevin Sullivan now probably kick the shit out of you, Aaron.
Yeah.
Bro, like if I ever got in a fight with Kevin Sullivan, I'd be more worried about him trying to bite my fucking nose off.
Right. Right.
That's what I'm saying. That would be kicking the shit out of me. If you
But as long as
bite
I
my
can keep
nose
that
off, you just
motherfucker
kick
within
the shit out
arm's
of me.
reach, he's fucked.
Not me. He's gonna fuck me up.
Hey, if he's gonna fight you, just run over and get at the head of the line for the Ferris wheel or the roller coaster. They won't let him on because he's not tall enough to ride.
And if you do beat him up, it'd probably be like a hate crime.
Number 57 is Jake Roberts, 6'5", 253, 19 years pro, DDT originator, captured the Smoky Mountain title, but was also shorn of his hair in Mexico after losing stipulation match to Conan. The Snake remains one of wrestling's most despised rule breakers.
So to say he was doing Smoky Mountain in Mexico in '94. I wouldn't put him this high up on the list.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
He no-showed Jim Cornette in '94.
Nate, you've seen Dark Side Beyond the Mat, right?
Oh yeah.
Just the craziest statement. My brother and I still make that joke, like when we don't want to be somewhere. The promoter coming on and going, and Jake point blank period said if we didn't get him some crack, he wasn't going to show up tonight. So I'll look like, well, me and my brother will make that joke every now and then. Like, if you don't give me crack, I'm not coming. You know what I mean? Because it's like, wow. So you got paid and then you held the promoter hostage for some drugs? You didn't want to pay for your own
Of course
drugs.
he did.
You needed your promoter to pay. And then the promoter got even worse. So we got him some crack and Jake performed it. Like, damn. That's all it took?
I like when he's like trying to make whatever comment he's making. He's like, yeah, I did this many things on the road. I did this. And he's like messing with his jacket. He goes, I'm working. And like, what is this on my coat?
Yes.
Just chocolate or something?
Right. He zoned out onto this thing.
Yeah.
No, but Jake in '94, yeah, he don't deserve to. What did you say? It was number 58?
57, yeah.
57. I would like him to have been like at the 120s.
Yeah, and Jake's one of those guys that, like, as a human being, and I'm glad he turned his life around. And I hope it's genuine. I really do. And God bless him. But he's one of those guys that, like, just if you look at him as a person, it's crazy because if you look at him as a person, what a fucking mess. But when you look at him as a performer, you're like, this is one of the greatest to ever do it.
Yes. Yes.
You know, it's
and
insane.
The thing though, they as a person, I would say this, as an individual, he was bad. You know, because he fucked himself up. But where I'd say Jake isn't a bad person is because, like, you never heard about him, like, hurting his family or anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
like, he even talks about, like, I gotta get away from, like, you never heard about him, like, smacking his family around or anything like that.
Here's where we're going to disagree because here and because to me, as a dad, the worst thing a dad can do is abandon his children.
Oh,
and
that's
Jake
true,
abandoned his children.
Okay, I'll give you that. But also my thing too is like, well, he never hurt them.
Not physically.
I know, but
I mean, you gotta look at the family.
I'm not.
I don't know.
We're not here to argue psychiatrics. I know.
I'm just saying, like, I never read about Jake like smacking people around.
No,
doing anything like that.
And
so that's where I'll say maybe he's not a shitty.
Maybe
that's where he's not a shitty human being. He's just a shit kind of an individual.
He recently did an interview where he was talking about when The Undertaker debuted in WWF, and Taker walked up to him and was like, "Hey, Jake, I want to ride with you." And Jake's like, "You don't want to ride with me, kid. I'm the biggest partier that's out there right now." And The Undertaker was like, "Yeah, I want it. That's where I want the experience of hanging out with you and drinking and doing everything." And Jake let him hang with him for like a week and a half. And by the time they were done, Taker had bloodshot eyes, gray bags under his eyes, and was white as a ghost. And Vince was like, "You don't need the makeup, kid." And then Jake pulled Undertaker to the side and was like, "You have to start taking vitamins and eating properly if you want to drink this heavy. That's why I can walk into the bar, drink the entire bar, and walk out and feel fine." You know, and so through that, what my point in that is, he didn't used to force his drug abuse or alcoholism on anybody. He did it to himself.
Yes.
So yes, he abandoned his family. I get that. But to Aaron's point, he knew he couldn't be good for them. So why subject them to his badness if he's gonna, you know what I mean, if he can't stay and be good.
And let's be real, Archie. He was like, "Hell no, don't get hooked on this shit, kid. You might take my connection."
Well, that too, yeah.
And Hugo Savinovich was like, "Run as far away as you can."
I know where that shit come from.
He said, "I can't be around you, man.
I got to get far away from you. I got to get far away from
you. I'm going to die. I have to be away from you, man."
I'll be damned if Hugo didn't have some cocaine cannons on him, huh?
Oh yeah. Remember his nose? Just in the middle of his face.
That motherfucker snort half an ounce at one time.
Right. Like, dude, you did all the coke in one shot.
I think big bump, man. Big bump.
Big bump.
All right. Two more and we'll sign off. 56 is Troy Graham, 6'3", 245, 17 years pro. The Dream Machine is a former USWA Southern champion, defeated by Brian Christopher, has captured many regional titles throughout his career. Long-running feud with Jerry Lawler is still going strong. And I don't know how many of you that
Dirty
listen
Roads.
to this show.
I don't know this guy. Did he do anything besides USWA?
The Dream Machine, big deal in Memphis.
He did a bunch of gimmicks down there. He did Dirty Roads, where it was like a Dusty Roads type gimmick. He was a great fucking promo. Nate, you might disagree with me, but I didn't think he was like the best in the ring or whatever. But I understand why. I understand why he was a regional talent.
Let's be honest. In Memphis, being the best bell to bell was not important.
Yeah,
no,
he was a regional guy in that area, and he, like I said, he was a great promo, and he basically did Dusty Roads down there, just with a bunch of different gimmicks. Would be my best way to describe him.
Yeah.
I gotta look him up. I don't know the name.
And we will wrap this episode with number 55, and it's a good one to wrap on because I know, once again, everybody's going to say they love this guy. Maybe not in this particular gimmick, but it's the Guardian Angel, 6'6", 310, 9 years pro. WCW ruled he couldn't use boss or boss man name. Wears beret and outfit
WCW didn't
honoring
rule
Chris
that.
Silva's crime fighting core. Brawling fan favorite, won the UWF singles title and starred in the WWF.
WCW didn't rule that.
No, they did not.
Right. Right.
Jerry McDivitt ruled that.
Right.
Intellectual property lawyer, yeah.
I know they wanted him to be a face, but he later on in time he did become Big Bubba again, and he was a face when he left the NWO. So why didn't they just revert him back to being Big Bubba Rogers and let him be a face and all that? Why did he have to become the Guardian Angel?
Yeah, that is probably. I mean, it's obviously the goofiest gimmick he ever had. I mean, it's Ray Traylor, so he was still fantastic.
He was.
Yeah,
but, I mean,
the best part of the Guardian Angel was when he freaked out and turned heel.
The referee right there wasn't even supposed to be in that ring.
But like, I don't know, his WCW career was what it was. He was never bad there. I don't think they knew what the fuck to do with him.
You know what my biggest surprise was, and maybe they just didn't have chemistry. But you know what my biggest surprise was with his WCW run?
What?
And again, sometimes you think of two wrestlers and you think, wow, they could be great together, and then they just don't have chemistry, you know. I don't know how his matches with Vader just weren't that good.
Yeah,
like you would think Ray Traylor and Vader in 1994 or 1993 would be fucking amazing.
Do you know what I think it was, Nate? Honestly,
I just chalk it up to chemistry.
I think it was who's supposed to be the big guy.
Yeah.
Well,
you know what I mean? And I'm not even saying it's like who's supposed to be. I don't know. That's just what I think it was.
But I get what you mean though, because there's the dynamic there that fucking good versus evil you could fucking run with, and it would have been over as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just didn't know how to package him when they did that whole Guardian Angel thing, and he was in the middle of a feud with Vader and things like that. Because when he becomes Ray Traylor or when he becomes Big Bubba Rogers and he joins the Dungeon of Doom, it's kind of corny. And you guys could crucify me if you want. I loved his work against John Tenta. Their feud when he shaves Tenta's head and they have the coin on a pole. They had a great match. They had great matches.
I'm never gonna knock like what his in-ring work was. I just don't think. I think once they got him and they realized they couldn't do the
Man, right?
The Wish or Toomey version of the Big Boss Man, they had no fucking idea what to do with him. And it's proof positive that in '98, when he goes back, he becomes one of the biggest fucking heels in that company when he goes back to the WWE.
Got a guy's dog. made the Big Show ride on his dad's casket.
In '98, when da 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 hits, that entire crowd's like, "Fuck you!"
Yep. Yep.
All right. Well, that is it. We ended on 55. Next week, we'll pick it up with number 54. And I'm sure next week will probably be the last week that we're going through the 1994 PWI 500.
There's a hint for
54 King of the Ring?
Number 54 was not a King of the Ring. Let me think of a hint here. Number 54 is the only wrestler. Some of us are going to get it and some of us aren't. Is the only wrestler to ever go into the ring and wrestle around with a gigantic pencil.
It's Brian Pillman.
Oh, God.
Is it Brian Pillman?
I don't know. Stay tuned next week and find out.
Dun, dun, dun.
Same PWI 500 channel, same PWI 500 time.
But yes, everybody, we'll continue next week our journey through the PWI 500 from 1994. Mark Brew, parting words, anything to plug? Talk.
Yeah, check us out on Whatnot on All Sports Breaks. Continue listening to anything that's on the WrestleNet Radio Podcast Network. Stay cool. Fuck it.
And I gotta hit you up tomorrow about Nashville.
Yes,
I will do that.
you or like if you got time afterwards.
And Archie.
Nothing to plug, but yeah, keep listening to everything on WrestleNet Radio and Reliving the Extreme. We Can't Wrestle podcast. And I had a blast. I'm happy I came and joined you guys.
Aron.
What?
Good.
All right. Thank you for joining us this week, everybody. And we'll see you next week for the next edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Have a great week, everybody.